On to week 10. On to week 10. It is SNL. Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. Nice extra week of rest for the Texans. Little extra week, different routine for us. I want to talk about week 10 and kind of, I don't think it's necessarily deja vu, but I think there is a similar opportunity for the Texans this year in week 10 versus last year in week 10. And last year they were on a smaller scale, at least when it came to hope. They were trying to win their division, get in the playoffs, and prove that they could do such. And at the time, they had an improbable matchup. At that time, they were 4-4, and they were facing the Cincinnati Bengals, who were coming off losing in heartbreaking fashion in the conference championship. And I think that was the game where where the Texans got the win on the last second field goal by Amendola. That was the game where we looked and we said, okay, maybe this team does have potential to win the division. I'll be damned, they end up winning the division, win 5 more games after that, get into the playoffs, win a playoff game. This year, the AFC South, we'll get to this in a sec, they're not a threat. No matter how bad you think things are, no matter how kind of stuck you feel, they're not a threat. They had a huge opportunity yesterday, and Jacksonville threw an interception in the end zone. Trevor Lawrence, not necessarily that they're that much of a threat. And then the Colts, Joe Flacco looked worse than Anthony Richardson. So there was no harm, no foul there. This year, just like in 2024, you're 23, you're facing a team that lost in heartbreaking fashion in the conference championship. It's a team that's a favorite. The Bengals were a 6-point favorite last year. The Lions are coming in as a 5-point favorite. I think this is kind of on a larger scale, a measuring stick opportunity for the Texans to prove that they're capable of reaching the goals that they have this year, much like they did last year when the goals were a little bit lower.
This is a huge opportunity to really just set level for this team. And remember the conversations that we were having the first couple of weeks, like, hey, they're a potentially great team that just has played down or hasn't fixed this or haven't fixed that. You get past the Lions with a victory, and all of a sudden your thought process about what this team can do on any given week is a lot higher. Because after that Jets game, I feel like most people, myself included, the ceiling got a lot lower and the floor got a lot lower. It's like, man, yeah, when it looks bad, it can look really bad for this team. You can change that with, just like with the Jets game is one game, you can change that drastically with a victory against the Lions. I don't care how you get there, you take care of business against the Lions, and there's a lot more belief that this team can do what they hope to accomplish when this season got going.
T says Bengals had a bad O-line, no T. Higgins, and Burrow was able to throw 5 touchdowns, and Bengals fans don't like Zach Taylor. Yeah, I mean,
look, it's not a one-to-one perfect comparison, team, and don't get lost in the details here.
No, he's talking about this year.
Oh, okay.
He's talking about how Burrow could throw 5 touchdowns yesterday, and they're still functioning. He's not even talking about last year.
Yeah,
last year Burrow ended up getting hurt. I don't think he was even talking about the comp.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is this opportunity that's presented to the Texans this week is do you do what everybody expects now, which is just get absolutely embarrassed on Sunday Night Football, or do you have a little bit of fight and juice left to you and you right the ship a little bit? You batten down the hatches and you get back on track. Do you find 5 guys that can block? Can the quarterback stay upright? Can he deliver the ball like he needs to deliver the ball? Can guys get open? You get Nico Collins back this week. That's going to be a huge boost for this team. But you got to protect the quarterback, and you got to get things going against this Lions team. And you don't have to be amazing against them, but you've got to show a significant amount of bounce back from what that Jets performance was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect the Texans to beat the Lions. I'll just be honest with you. I don't know that I expected them to beat the Bengals last year, but I think there is the comparison. Lions right now, by the way, their point differential through 8 games is plus 110. The Texans through 9 is plus 1. So there's a 109 point difference in point differential, and we're talking about the Texans playing 1 more game. So look into that stat however you choose. You mentioned Nico Collins. How much does Nico Collins return help? I saw Seth was getting pretty fiery about this. I guess it's the don't talk about any other problems that aren't the offensive line type of thing. But how does Nico Collins return help?
Well, it creates an ability to get rid of the ball faster because Nico Collins can win a route as quick as anybody on the Texans. Probably the quickest, or not probably. He can win a route quicker than anybody else on the Texans. So put a foot in the ground, beat your man off the line of scrimmage. You're open. CJ Stroud can get rid of the football. He can win over the middle. Guys haven't won over the middle outside of Stefon Diggs and Nico Collins, and Diggs ain't coming back, and Nico Collins is coming back. So you can win over the middle and have some success over the middle of the field because Collins is one of the best winners over the middle. Plus, it takes a little attention away. I would think that most teams would look at the Texans and how they've operated without Nico Collins and realize there's not much else on this team. Slow down Nico Collins, and it's going to look pretty similar to what it has looked like if you could slow him down or stop him or take him away on any given play. And there's just you can get to the quarterback and you can get the ball over to you can keep the ball in CJ Stroud's hands and keep him from getting the ball over to Tank Dell or whoever else that third, fourth wide receiver is or the tight end. So Collins, I mean, for get rid of the ball fast, Nico helps you do that. You can call plays where you know he can beat his guy one-on-one, get inside and get the ball to him, and you can win a 3rd and 3 in a couple of seconds, and you don't have to let some long, slow developing play happen where maybe a guy gets open. Collins can get open fast, and we've talked for weeks now, get rid of the ball faster so that CJ Stroud's not getting murdered by the defensive line, and Collins can help you do that. That's the biggest bonus that he brings to being back in the lineup.
Damn it, Bobby.
T says, what I mean is there's no excuse for Bobby. Tampa made it work with no Godwin and Evans.
Gotcha.
That's what he meant. Yeah, he wasn't talking about the comparison. He thought that comparison was perfect. The 2010 next step comparison. The Nico thing is also interesting because I think they knew it. I think we've got to accept it. John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson, they're 4 or 5 guys. They're number 4s or number 5s, and probably trying to make teams in a lot of situations, much like they were this year. Like the notion that these guys are going to be able to do what Noah Brown did last year and step up, it's not a realistic thing right now. And as much as the blocking has to do with a lot, these guys are not getting open. Nico Collins has the open when he's not open element too that CJ Stroud has started to trust, to where it's a lot easier to get rid of the ball. I think it's a very deadly combination, almost like gasoline and fire, whenever you're in harm's way because of your blocking, and you also just don't trust that you can just throw it up and see if the guys have an opportunity to catch it, or it's an incomplete pass or something like that. And I don't think that CJ Stroud has that confidence with Xavier Hutchinson, John Mechie, or even really Tank Dell, because Tank Dell's a small receiver. So I get, and I know that people are going to say, well, he's not the problem, the offensive line, blah, blah, blah. I don't disagree, but the reality is you still need as many good players as possible. And when you can get a guy who was arguably the best receiver in the NFL before he went down, I think that is a good thing. What did you make of Cam Akers yesterday? Because that kind of had Texans Twitter and the internet going a little bit nuts, seeing Cam Akers on a contending team running effectively. What did you make of that?
I didn't like the trade when they made the trade, so
and neither one of us did. We didn't think it made a ton of sense.
Yeah, so the reason I didn't like it was not because Cam Akers provided some tremendous special teams value. Cam Akers was going to be there if Dameon Pierce or Joe Mixon got hurt again, as they did at the early portion of the season. Well, what happened? Dameon Pierce got hurt again, and then the first time Cam Akers got an opportunity to play football, he was averaging over 7 yards a carry for the Minnesota Vikings. So it was a trade that didn't make a lot of sense. And I understand, okay, maybe Akers wanted more. That's fine. Like,
who cares?
You don't have to do anything for him. Like, you gave him an opportunity to not be a free agent. And so I don't care what he wanted. He was a useful player that could have helped the Texans. And then, I know J.J. Taylor had a nice run here or there the other night, but I like Cam Akers more than him. They clearly did too, because Cam Akers made the team over J.J. Taylor coming out of training camp. So it was annoying to see Cam Akers be successful, because Cam Akers should be one of the backup running backs for the Houston Texans still. Should
the Texans call the Jags about Brandon S? what could be the price? Is the guard we signed any good at all? Look, they're just trying to get bodies right now because they need them. Could he be better than Kenyon Green? Sure. Kenyon Green probably wasn't good enough to be a backup guard. But they're just searching for bodies. I don't know that they're going to be able to make the
guard they signed is to a practice squad, and he hasn't played much football. So his name's Jerome Carvin.
Yeah, Jerome Carvin. Didn't he go to like Tennessee or something like that?
Tennessee, correct. Yep.
Okay. Rich asks, what's good, fellas? Big fan from Cali going to the Lions game. Any opportunity for the fans to chop it up with you guys? Absolutely. We'll figure something out. We'll go out there. Dominic from Jersey is going to be here, by the way. He's 0-13 attending Texans games, so that's not awesome.
I think it's 0-12, but
0-12.
It could be 0-13.
My bad. Yeah, maybe I'm seeing the future. We'll see. I mean, this is this is the NFL. It's going to be interesting. I do think it's an opportunity. The good news for the Texans, and I kind of want to get into this because we do this normally. It's Reaction Monday, but this is a different week. The Texans could have been in somewhat of a danger zone had Indianapolis been able to take advantage of their opportunity yesterday. And I mean, I was in Vegas. I ended up watching the game on a plane, but I was watching the beginning at Caesars. And right off the top, like it looked like there might be some Flacco magic, but then Jonathan Taylor just fumbles. And you're like, oh, okay, the Colts are kind of a lost cause, and they end up losing. Had the Colts won that game, this thing could have got really, really interesting, although the Colts got Buffalo this week. So the AFC South is helping the cause right now. And that's why I say this is kind of an opportunity to show that you're going up a tier, because right now, unlike last year when it was week 10, like winning the division is not some sort of improbable goal. As a matter of fact, I think Jacksonville last year had the same lead on you as like Kansas City and Baltimore does right now, because Jacksonville, they started out slow and then they ended up getting pretty hot, and there was a huge meltdown at the end of the year. So much like Jacksonville was above you when you got the dub against the Bengals last year, and then you kind of scratch and clawed your way up to the division, little up and down. This year you have Kansas City, you have, I guess, can I say that Baltimore's ahead even though they have the same record? Like you have Baltimore you're kind of looking up at, and then.
Well, I would say yes, because are you picking the Texans to beat Baltimore right now?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not. So, yeah, that's where we're at. But the AFC South very much helped the cause. Trevor Lawrence, God. Jeez.
They are, I mean, the Saints fired Dennis Allen. When did the Jags do the same thing? Like they're in last place in the AFC South.
Yeah, they're bad.
The Titans are ahead of them at 2-6. Like
they're bad.
It's the Colts, man. You brought up that point. You and I both believe they'd have a little bit more to them with Joe Flacco in there. They didn't even score an offensive touchdown last night. Like that was pathetic. And
yeah, he looked old.
Yeah. And I mean, their schedule sets up so that they could be out of this AFC South race pretty quick with the Bills, Jets, and Lions as their next 3 games. So they could be, really hurting. So as much worry as there was coming out of Thursday for, is the division was really the Colts. Are the Colts going to creep, up to you? It doesn't look like that. It doesn't look like they're going to creep up to you.
Yeah, there's no threat really. I mean, the run, and then they got Buffalo this week, and we'll see how that goes. But there's really just no threat for the Texans, and there's no real consequence. Now the question is this: what are the Texans going to do on offense? D'Amico Ryan's going to speak today. We'll find out. Probably I hope someone asked for a Nico Collins update. I don't know. I would hope so. I mean, yeah, I'll ask about it if no one's going to, but I would think that would be one of the first things asked. Is there going to be any change on this offensive line, or is it going to be as simple as Kenyon Green's not in, so we're starting Jared Patterson or Kenyon Green or Kendrick Green? What are we looking at on this offensive line?
Well, if Patterson's healthy, I would think that they're going to put him at left guard, because that's what they intended to do with the game the other day before he got hurt. He played 10 snaps, got the concussion. So once he clears protocol and is back, I would think he gets the crack at left guard. Kendrick Green goes back to a depth player. But, if they wanted to make A couple of different changes I'd be in favor of. If you wanted to tell me it's Kendrick Green at left guard and Jarrett Patterson at right guard and they bench Shaq Mason, I'm in favor of that. If they want to go Patterson at center and Kendrick Green at left guard, I'm in favor of that. Like, try something new. Your point on Friday was they haven't tried anything.
My point was D'Amico wouldn't let this happen to his defense.
Well, but I asked you, I go, what haven't you tried on the offense would be something I'd ask them. And you said they haven't tried anything. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
They've tried nothing. Yeah. Now here's the thing. So I was walking the other day and I just had something hit me in the head. And I was thinking about this offensive line, and I don't think this is anything that we haven't spoken of.
The hobo throws something at you. What hit you in the head?
No,
just a thought. A thought came to you.
I was going on a long walk. I was going up and down the Vegas Strip, and I was just thinking, and this is just old me. New me, I don't think I would have been thinking. I would have just been acting an ass. But I was thinking about if you hired a private investigator, let's say.
Okay. All right, I'm in. You got me. Tell me more.
So if you hired a private investigator that knew nothing about football, let's say you took someone and they knew nothing about football when it comes to the Texans offensive line, and you just laid out the situation from 2023 to now, and you described the performance, you described what was going on. I think that private investigator would come to two conclusions. I think they would come to one of two conclusions without watching tape. I'm not talking about this guy watches tape or anything, because there's some people that can watch the tape and say Shaq Mason sucks, or Titus Howard is not good at right tackle, or it doesn't appear that these guys know what they're doing, or Kenyon Green should never been on the field and stuff. The tape guys can tell you that. But if you just looked at this offensive line from last year to this year, where last year they never really seemed to have the same five, and they performed better than the guys that were out there this year, and you gathered that information, you would come to one of two conclusions when it comes to this offensive line. You would come to one of two conclusions. Conclusion number one is that someone specifically in this five this year, or some people, multiples, they just suck so bad that they cause the entire unit to be bad. And it could be two guys, it could be three guys, it could be four guys. I'm going to leave Tunsil out of the equation. But that would be conclusion one, that someone who wasn't here last year, and it can really, it could be Juice Scruggs at center, it could be Kenyon Green at left guard, it could be Titus Howard at right tackle, it could be Shaq Mason getting older. But something that has happened this year, or some things that have happened this year, have caused this offensive line to be even worse than it was last year when you had guys off the street. Conclusion number two would be this, and I think this is a possibility just based on what these guys are saying, because you hear them talk about how they're kind of scared to put Kendrick Green in, and the reasoning that D'Amico gave you, if I'm not mistaken, was basically that Kenyon got a lot of reps.
Kenyon practiced more that week?
Yes. So Kenyon practiced more. So conclusion number two would be that these guys that are getting reps and being coached are being so overcoached, or so coached in such the wrong direction, whether it's from Slowick or the offensive line, that as a unit, they just don't know what the hell they're doing. Those would be the two investigations outside of just going through a line and saying, this guy sucks, this guy sucks, this guy sucks, this guy sucks, this guy sucks. If these guys aren't good, then it's either one of these guys that is back, one of these four guys not named Laramie Tunsil is just so bad that it makes the offensive line impossible, or these guys are so poorly prepared and so poorly coached that there's just no hope. And here's the other thing, Cody, and this is just because you know how I am listening to press conferences. You know how I am when it comes to listening to what D'Amico and Caserio and Slowick say. Here's the thing that's real revolutionary to me that kind of makes me see the light and think that it might be actually the way in which these guys are prepared. I've heard Caserio say now, I've heard D'Amico say now, and I've heard Bobby Slowick say now, when justifying a play that didn't work or a play call, that, well, they didn't give us the look that we wanted. They've all said that. Like they've literally all said that. And the play was run anyways. So does that mean that you're not predicting what they're going to do? Does that mean you're not recognizing stuff at the line of scrimmage? Or does that mean that they know what the hell you're going to do? Because I think it's crazy that they've all three said that, Cody. Like, it's not like one guy saying it. They've all three at different times in the last 10 days or 11 days, they've said, well, they just didn't give us the look we wanted. Okay, so they either knew what you were doing, you didn't know what they were doing, they tricked you and did something that you didn't think, or you just weren't prepared for it. I think that's kind of like the investigative work that I think, and the conclusions we got to come to where, yes, and it can all be true, but I do think it's crazy when they say they didn't give us a look that we wanted, and that's your justification. That seems weird, because you should have some sort of idea.
I'm tired of hearing that. Bobby Slowick said it about the 3rd and 15 pass at the end of Green Bay. D'Amico Ryan said it about the halfback pass against the Jets.
And Caserio said it too on the Texans radio.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know what look makes you successful on that crappy halfback pass. I mean, Bobby Slowick at least had an example of, well, if a team gave us a look from last year, we'd have scored a touchdown. Okay, I don't know if I totally believe that, but it's a good explanation. Yeah, your point about the coaching and the between the ears going the wrong direction, it feels more and more relevant, because even with a little bit of change, they still have been bad. So and again, it's only been a little bit of change because Kendrick Green and Jarrett Patterson haven't played that much at left guard compared to Kenyon Green, but it still looked bad once Kendrick Green got in there. It looked okay for a drive here or there. They had the 98-yard drive for the touchdown against the Jets right when Kendrick Green got in there, but ultimately he still ended up in the same spot that the previous left guard was in, which was allowing pressures and sack and so on and so forth. So the direction that they've taken the offensive line with coaching, because so many guys are bad, and they weren't all that bad last year. Like, Juice Scruggs at left guard wasn't good last year. Like, he was okay, but he was better at left guard last year than he's been at center this year. Shaq Mason was better last year than this year. Titus Howard at left guard last year was probably better than he's been at right tackle at times this year, though he's had some, nice pass blocking moments there at right tackle. He's had some bad ones too. So the coaching conversation, the direction they've taken it, their role in the offense, how they operate, that one seems more prevalent now than, hey, one guy or two guys or four guys are the issue with this offensive line.
The other thing for me is, and I kind of bring this back, and we follow the Texans, so we always talk about Texans' recent history. There's another thing, like, I think that the best that Deshaun Watson ever was, and this is not the direction that I wanted this to go, but I think the best that Deshaun Watson ever was his rookie year in 2017, when they really didn't have a lot of time to overcoach him. I think that it shouldn't, like, Deshaun Watson, that early stretch of the rookie season, I think that's the best that I've seen the Texans offense, like, going back to when Kubiak had it humming. Like, the way that offense was performing Deshaun Watson's rookie year, and just the unpredictability and stuff, it was incredible, to the point where you said in 2018, man, this is what this offense is going to look like. And it never really looked that way. Like, there were good times, but it never looked that way. A lot of that could have to do with Will Fuller, and but it never really just felt like it was like that way. I almost feel like O'Brien didn't have time to, like, overcoach Deshaun Watson, and it was just kind of like, let's just go out there and play. Let's just make it work. And it feels that way with this Texans offense right now, between Slowick and the O-line and some of the stuff that they're saying. I mean, there's a clear feel that teams know what you're doing, or you don't have the ability to adjust. And Sarah asks, how do you fix that? I don't know. Like, I really, like, and I'm not trying to cop out. I don't, like, I'm not. It's Bobby Slowick's going to have to answer that. Like, I don't have, like, any exact site. I'm sure some coaches some coaches probably have enough, they prepare their team enough, or the quarterback has enough to where he can see a defensive look and say, all right, we're going to change this, we're going to do this. And sometimes they might overdo it. Some coaches might study film so good that they know exactly what the defense is going to do. Some coaches might be able to watch and pick up tendencies. I think that's where Bobby Slowick kind of struggles, because you look at their second half stats. I don't know that Bobby Slowick can actually see what's going on in front of him and adjust like a lot of coaches can. I mean, I don't know. I think Bobby Slowick, I'll put it this way. I think Bobby Slowick is good at watching film leading up to the game to a certain point. But I think Bobby Slowick, like whenever I used to get a calculus test in front of me, I would just kind of freeze up. I think that's what he's like with those sheets and the iPads during the game. I don't think he knows what the hell he's looking at and how to adjust. And I think the numbers back that up.
The comparison between D'Amico's defense and Bobby's offense, how many times have we heard D'Amico Ryans talk about, yeah, it doesn't matter as much what those guys do. We've got to be the best version of it. Like, basically, the defense has to impose their will on the opposing offense. It feels like every week Bobby Slowick tries to run an offensive game plan that's like perfect for a team's defense, and when it's not working, he just kind of gets stuck and he can't adjust or fix. And it feels like it's so dependent on what the other team does to them versus you got Joe Mixon, you got CJ Stroud, like go impose your will on them. And it might be as simple as, well, the offensive line doesn't give us that opportunity. So we do need to be cognizant of what the other team's going to do. Yeah. Okay. But like the over scheming and the got to get this look to win this play. And I don't feel like other teams do that. I just feel like other teams don't go through that.
T says Tunsil locked up Myles Garrett on one knee in the playoffs. We need that level of play based on how they're paid. That shouldn't be hard. I think you can expect elite play from Tunsil. I don't think you can expect elite play from any other offensive lineman. And I know that there's a lot invested in it. It's just I don't anticipate that happening. Herman says we waited too long to get help. Now we need to speed up our moves, and the moves don't necessarily assure it. Birdie Boy says, should Bobby get moved to run game coordinator and Gerard promoted to the pass game? I don't know if Gerard's worth the damn at play calling. I like Gerard. I mean, I think he's promising. I think he's going to get that opportunity. I think he's going to be an NFL head coach one day. I don't know if he's a good play caller. I have no idea. I don't know if Gerard Johnson knows what he's doing play calling. No idea. And quite frankly, like we started out, like the personnel, there's a personnel thing, there's a coaching thing. Like it could be multiple things. It's just not. It's not good. So we'll see how it goes. Space Age says CJ isn't athletic. It is what it is. I don't agree with that. I think CJ Stroud has done an excellent. I think CJ's actually made this offensive line look better with his athleticism and with his legs. So yeah, we'll
criticism of CJ Stroud's mobility is the last thing I'm going to do.
Yeah, and Space Age falls. Space Age having a rough night, a rough day. He says we should have hired a experienced offensive coordinator. Well, I mean, Ben Johnson wasn't an experienced offensive coordinator. He's doing okay. You know, I mean, it's just sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Look, you're going to find out if you're going to find out a lot about Bobby Slowick in the next few weeks and the rest of the season. Does he have the type of talent as an offensive mind to pull out of this nosedive that they're in? Can he adjust for certain things? And if he can't, then D'Amico Ryans has to have a difficult conversation with himself at the end of the season. And if Bobby Slowick does, then the Texans will get on track offensively and they'll have some semblance of a consistent offense.
We'll see what happens. Look, we're all trying to solve the same damn mystery with this offensive line, and it is a very, very, very frustrating one. It is SNL, Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. So no practice today. D'Amico will speak. They'll be back on the practice field Wednesday. We don't know if Nico Collins is going to be back. I would guess yes. If I had to guess, that's 100% a guess. That's not like some mystery. Like that, my guess would be yes, that Nico Collins is back. Who knows what happens with Shire? Who knows what happens with Jimmy Ward? But your guess is as good as mine on that. But I would think that Nico Collins is back. Do we have any localized thoughts on the Saints firing Dennis Allen before we get out of here?
Maybe there's a player that you could pry away from the Saints if you wanted to go look at their roster. But
Who?
all their good offensive linemen are hurt though.
Okay.
Dennis Allen. I mean, Slowick's not getting that job, so don't have to worry about that. Hold on. Did they interview or request to interview Gerard last year?
They did. They
Okay.
did. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, in theory, he's on their short list. Clint Kubiak is probably going to be coaching somewhere else next year.
Oh, okay. Hey, I actually like the way he was calling games early.
Yeah, they looked great for 2 games, and then
Hey, Clint. I'll take Clint Kubiak.
So Clint Kubiak replacing Bobby Slowick, or Clint Kubiak adding to the Bobby Slowick staff?
I don't know. We'll get to that later.
That's an off-season conversation because
it might be a next Monday conversation, quite honestly, depending on what Bobby looks like coming back.
Hey, did you know that you're allowed to fire assistant coaches in the middle of the year?
Did not. Never heard that.
Yeah, because the Raiders.
I don't want to fire Bobby.
No, but the Raiders fired 3 guys. They fired their OC, their QB coach, and their O-line coach.
Wow. Look at that. All right. Well, the week is upon us. Hope you enjoyed the long stretch. AFC South helps. Deja vu in week 10. Nico Collins, if he comes back, how much do you think that he helps? And it's a good time to follow this squad, regardless of how we're feeling. 6-3 is nice. Appreciate y'all for coming through, whether they're 3-6, 6-3, 0-9, 9-0, whatever. When it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon.